Hello and welcome to the Missouri Department of Economic Development's Community Development Block Grant Training on the Community Development Block Grant DR policies. This training is in regards to the Local Voluntary Buyout Program, also known as LVBOP. The full policy document for this program can be found on the Missouri Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery website under 2017 Disasters, also known as DR 4317. Today's training includes an overview of the LVBOP generally, the process, property disposition after the buyout has reached full clearance, as well as staff and contacts. Please note the email and phone number at the bottom of this screen to use for any questions or concerns you may have relative to this program. Overview. The Local Voluntary Buyout Program has the goal of reducing the risk of future disasters and the impacts thereof by encouraging the targeted revitalization efforts and public spaces in areas that are typically flood prone. The acquisition and purchase of residential and in some cases commercial property, and structures to be demolished and deed restricted. LMI households may be also eligible for additional assistance if their home is bought out and demolished under the Community Rehousing Incentive for Buyout. Of note, under DR 4317, DED will use the pre-disaster fair market value for the acquisition or purchase of residential property. Buyouts will be conducted in buyout zones. Each subrecipient or local unit of government may have more than one buyout zone. Generally, the buyout zone will be located in a floodway, a 100-year floodplain, or a designated risk reduction area. A designated disaster risk reduction area must be clearly delineated, so HUD and the public at large will know which properties are located within this designated area. When developing a buyout zone, local government should consider if the area has a history of flooding or perhaps damage that has been caused by extreme weather events. Perhaps the area has multiple contiguous parcels in the floodplain and can evidence similar and documented damage. Intergovernmental areas where there's mutual understanding that there is benefit to removing homes or structures from an area within that floodplain, and converting those sites is a good option for buyout zones, as well as just generally if an area is flood prone or under a local floodplain ordinance. Buyout programs require a tie to the disaster. The programs must report recovery activities with a tie to the disaster in the most impacted and distressed areas, also known as MIDs. Each applicant, that is owner of properties, must be eligible, and each property must be eligible. Eligible activities include buyout and demolition. Demolition will occur to ensure floodplain is retained, and therefore the properties will remain under a permanent open space covenant. LVBOP process. This slide represents the general process through which subrecipients and beneficiaries can anticipate. A subrecipient is a local unit of government that has applied through DED for CDBG DR funds. They apply for dollars to enact an LVBOP program at the local level. Beneficiaries are the property owners who are able to receive compensation for the property that is being bought out and has been impacted by disaster. The first step is for subrecipients to create a buyout plan. Once that plan is created, they can apply for CDBG DR funds and therefore provide in that application how they will conduct the LVBOP. Next, subrecipients must conduct outreach to potential beneficiaries and collect applications from them to participate. Subrecipients will then submit their applications to DED for general completion, review, and eligibility verification of applicants and property. Subrecipients then conduct an income verification and can identify then if the CRIB program is an eligible use for that individual property owner. Subrecipients will also conduct appraisal and submit duplication and benefit information to DED so that DED can conduct a duplication and benefit verification. As CDBG DR funds are federal funds, at no time can any of the beneficiaries duplicate the benefit from a different program, perhaps SBA loan or FEMA, for example, that the same use cannot be duplicated under CDBG DR funds. Once the DOB verification is conducted, the DED team can calculate the award. DED will then notify the subrecipient of the amount that the award could be for the beneficiary. Subrecipient then prepares the offer for the beneficiary's property. In addition, subrecipient is responsible for conducting an environmental review. This includes all the environmental impacts relative to the demolition of any property, such as perhaps lead abatement or asbestos abatement. Subrecipient is also responsible for procuring title services, conducting closing, and submitting the final RFS. Finally, the subrecipient is responsible for maintaining the property as green space in perpetuity and maintaining the records thereof. Process for subrecipients. Before you receive your CDBG DR award, you must create a buyout plan and submit the application for the buyout program. After you've received your award and your application is accepted, the subrecipient then should undertake application intake meetings with potential beneficiaries. At this time, subrecipients can also begin the Tier 1 environmental review. Subrecipients then must verify the eligibility of each applicant and collect all required documentation for submission to Community Development Block Grant team members. Subrecipients should then verify household income, determine national objectives, and whether or not that particular beneficiary might be eligible for the Community Rehousing Incentive for Buyouts, or CRIB fund. If required, it's about this time that the Tier 2 environmental review process can begin. Finally, subrecipient must conduct the appraisal and review appraisals for the property. In the case of a tenant occupancy, which is to mean there's a renter in the property as opposed to a homeowner property, subrecipients should begin the initiation of negotiations, the general information notice, and should refer to the CDBG DR policy document, Chapter 5, URA-based relocation. Once that is conducted, the subrecipient should collect insurance and all other assistance received by the beneficiary for the duplication of benefits workbook. This workbook can be found on our website and is reviewed in our duplication of benefits training. Subrecipients should then send DOB information to the Department of Economic Development for calculation. DED will notify the subrecipient of eligibility and award amount for the beneficiary. Subrecipient should then prepare the offer package for property owner and send to DED for review. Finally, the subrecipient will send an offer package to the property owner via certified mail or in person. Should the beneficiary accept the offer, subrecipient can then schedule the meetings with the title company for the purchase of the property. Subrecipient is also responsible for scheduling moving of the property owner and or tenants from the property in writing with a deadline to vacate in not less than 90 days. Subrecipients should ensure that the title agencies are able to conduct the title survey, review the purchase agreement, prepares pre-closing checklist, works through any title issues that can be resolved independently. And finally, if there are title issues that require the property owner attention, there should be collaboration between subrecipient, title agency, and property owner to achieve this end goal. Once the title is clear, the title company can prepare the closing documents, while the subrecipient can then send the deed restriction language to the title company for inclusion in the document package. Property closing can then be conducted, and the subrecipient can secure the acquired structure, properties, and disconnect or cap any utilities. Structures should be demolished within 90 days of closing. Property disposition. Once a property is demolished and acquired, it must be deed restricted, resulting in the land being open space in perpetuity. The deed shall be recorded to include such a restrictive covenant reflecting the open space in perpetuity. Any costs of maintaining the property after the demolition will be borne and paid for by the subrecipient. It is imperative to note that reconstruction may not occur on any of the acquired lots under the CDBG DR buyout program, or LVBOP, except in the case of very certain specified structures. Specifically, the structure must be public and cannot change the purpose of the property away from open space. In some cases, different communities have done restrooms, they have done open air shelters. There's a few different options out there. Any structures built must be in accordance with the floodplain management plan. The property is not eligible for flood insurance or similar flooding assistance, and the community can only transfer ownership with the permission of DED. If there is a transfer of ownership, that transfer must acknowledge that there is a deed restriction on the property. DED has the right, with notice, to inspect the property for compliance. Subrecipients must submit certification every 3 years that the property has been inspected within the last month and continues to be within compliant use. If this does not occur, the community and DED will work together to bring the property back into compliance within 60 days. Our staff and contacts. Again, CDBG is here to help you. Program management and coordination falls with myself, Mary Rajek, the program manager. We also have our community engagement and planning officer, Brennan Jensen, our program compliance officer, Kim Stiefer, and our financial systems officer, Joe Sanning. We also have fantastic support staff. We have Candace Buford, our program coordination specialist, as well as Walter Baker and Whitney Cravens, our disaster recovery and mitigation specialists. If you wish to get a hold of any of our staff members, please email us at mocdbg@ded.mo.gov or call 573-751-3600. And thank you.